Welcome to the Mentally Whole podcast. I am your host, Lauren Green. This podcast is a safe place for us to have weekly discussions about mental health, Christ, personal development, and the tools to live our best lives. Please stay tuned for a new episode. Hey y'all, welcome to the Mentally Whole podcast. I am your host, Lauren Green, and this is a new episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and rate the podcast, because when you do that, I know you enjoy the contents. Don't forget to subscribe to the mailing list. I really want to look out for my listeners who've been listening, all this time. And we're hitting 30 episodes, y'all, which is amazing. And I really want to look out for y'all because you've been rocking with me since September and you guys are amazing. And I want to just do, creative things to, just show my appreciation for my listeners. So don't forget to subscribe to the mailing list. So y'all, I did not know what to talk about this week because, I've been in the house, teleworking, I might leave the house to go to the grocery store like once a week, but that's literally about it, or take walks. Some days I wake up feeling great. Some days I'm like, this is blah, this is boring. And our mental and emotional health is important during this time of quarantine shutdown. And, like I said, I didn't know what to talk about. And I was reminded of this list that I created when I first started the podcast. Someone gave me the advice to write down, any potential topics that you might want to do for the show. And I did that, and I have a tons of them. So I think this one is a very timely episode. So today we're getting into what is therapy, right? So the title of this episode will be Therapy 101. I like that title because I think it's cute. And we're going to talk about what a therapist is, what is therapy, the different types of therapy, and the benefits of therapy. And the part 2 will probably be how to find a therapist, and what your first visit would look like with a therapist. So a therapist is someone who is trained and licensed in mental health and human behavior, right? So they are fully trained. So for me, like I can only speak for myself. I have, I had to get a bachelor's degree first, and then I had to go get my master's degree. You can either to become a counselor, you can either get your a therapist. You can either have a degree in counseling or social work in the state of Maryland, and you have to have all these classes you need. So I'm going to go over the classes that you need to even become a therapist, right? So you need classes like human growth and personality development. A therapist needs to take classes on social and cultural foundations of counseling. They need to have classes on counseling theory, counseling techniques, group dynamics, lifestyle and career development, professional, legal, and ethical responsibilities, marriage and family therapy, alcohol and drug counseling, diagnosis and psychopathology, psychotherapy and treatment of mental and emotional disorders. Also, to become a therapist, you have to have supervised field experience. So even before I graduated for my master's degree, I had to have 700 hours of supervised field experience, right? And then even after I graduated, I still need supervised field experience, basically like I'm working under someone else, kind of, if that makes sense. And we have to do 3,000 hours in 2 years. But the hours that you obtained in practicum and internship, you can use that to the 3,000 hours. What else? What else can I tell you about being what therapists need? I think that's about it. You have to go through your state licensure board to become licensed. You can only practice therapy in the state that you are licensed. So I'm licensed in Maryland, so I can only practice in Maryland. So What is therapy? So mainly therapy is talk therapy, meaning you and your therapist are talking, processing, your situations, right? One-on-one. Usually that's called individual therapy, right? And what else? Family therapy is when it's you or your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or a family member. And basically it will be you, the therapist, and whatever family member you want in the session. And you guys are basically, hashing out, processing your thoughts and feelings about whatever family situation you want to talk about in the family therapy session, right? Another form of therapy is group therapy. So group therapy is when a group of people, the therapist will decide on what kind of group that he or she would want to run, and they will find clients who they think would benefit from the group environment. So you would have you and several other people and the therapist, in a group setting, right? Maybe, it depends on how big the therapist wants the group to be, but you can have 5 or 6 people, in a group, and you guys talk about similar issues. So for addictions, I know oftentimes for substance use programs, they have group therapy, right? So everybody in that group has a substance use issue, right? What else? Another type of group therapy could be an art therapy group. I was supposed to participate in an art therapy group when I was an intern, but it fell through because of a lack of participation. But it would have been it would have been centered around art therapy. Another example of group therapy could be it could be, a grief group. There's also grief groups. I think I just was reminded of the episode of Power when Ghost and Tasha went to a grief group. So there are groups about everything almost. So that's another form of therapy. And the last type of therapy is couples and marriage therapy. So couples and marriage therapy is exactly what you think it is. It's a couple with the therapist, and they are working through their issues as a couple, right? So if you're married or you are engaged to someone and you guys want to go through counseling, it would be considered couples or premarital counseling too. That's also a thing. So yeah, that's couples and marriage. So it'd be you, your spouse, or you and your boyfriend, or you and your girlfriend, and the therapist. So there's different types of therapy. So there's art therapy, there's cognitive behavioral therapy, there's parent-child interaction therapy. There's so many different types of therapies that you can probably just Google it and it come up. But the basic forms or modalities, as we call them, are individual therapy, family therapy, group therapy, couples, and marriage. So I have 9 benefits, y'all, of therapy, so bear with me, but it just kept flowing and I kept Googling stuff, so here we go. So the first benefit of therapy is that it helps to change unhealthy patterns. So I want to pause and say this. In my graduate school program, they always told us if you want to be a therapist, you need to go to therapy yourself. So some of these I'll have more feedback on because of my own time in therapy. So it does help to change unhealthy patterns. I know the one thing that I remember when I was going to therapy, she really helped me to figure out what was stopping me from being inconsistent with some of my goals. Just being inconsistent with my goals, or just finding those barriers to my goals. So in therapy, we have barriers, and there's another word it's escaping me, but barriers are things that will hinder you or block you from reaching your goal. And I feel like therapy is so good at finding out what those barriers, what those challenges are, and also identifying the things that will help you help you finish your goals. Anywho, I can't find the word, but there are things. So just not the barriers. So therapy is good for helping you, identifying the barriers to reaching your goals, but it also helps you to figure out what your strengths are, what are the things that will help you reach your goals. Also, number 2, another benefit of therapy, it helps you to handle your emotions from problems or stressors. The one thing I loved about therapy is that it really helped me to identify my emotions, right? Helped me to identify my emotions and really say, hey, you know what, this is what I feel. It also, so to go along with helping, figure out those emotions, it also helped me to build coping skills. I feel this, so what do I do when I feel this? It also helped me to build problem solving skills. So for example, my therapist helped me to, develop, or we talked through, developing an action plan for mending a relationship in my life, right? So, she helped me, handle my emotions, but also gave me action steps as well. The 5th benefit is increased self-awareness. Me and my friend talk about this all the time. We are more aware of our emotions. We are more aware of our triggers. Now I can be like, okay, I'm upset right now. I need to get it together. I'm upset. Number 6 is that it provides a new perspective on people. This was very important in my journey when I went to therapy, because, she would just say okay, what if it's not all your fault? What if it's not all your fault? What if this person was going through X, Y, and Z? What if this person was in your life? How would that change your life? She was asking all of the, questions that need to be asked. And it also helped me to gain a new perspective on certain people in my life. Also, number 7, it provides extra support, right? It's like another person on your team that is there to help you, that is there to push you to greatness, right? Number 8 is that I became more reflective. So I started asking myself, okay, why does that make me upset? Why, when they did this, I'm upset, or how come I'm angry right now? Or what about that triggered me? Why am I inconsistent right now? Why am I distracted right now? Asking myself the hard questions, being more reflective, asking myself questions. I learned more of that actually, in therapy. So the last thing I wanted to mention is a term that I learned in therapy. It was called radical acceptance. So the number 9th one, I had to make it personal, more personal. Radical acceptance. So radical acceptance is about accepting life on life's terms and not resisting what you cannot or choose not to change. Radical acceptance is about saying yes to life just as it is. And when she explained to me what it was, I remember we had a conversation about something, and she asked, what can you radically accept in this moment? And I was like, this is what this, and for, not giving too many details, but I said, this is what our relationship is, and, I have to like move on. Learning that principle was very important because you can practice radical acceptance, with any situation in your life. I practice, as I'm thinking about it, I need to, radically accept something, that's happening in my life right now. So those were the 9 benefits of therapy. We also talked about the different types of therapy, what is therapy, and how to become a therapist. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and part 2 will be how to find a therapist, and I hope you guys have a great week.